What's going on, everybody? This is Fill Your Soul podcast, where we actually interview people who are in the spiritual space. And we want to give people the opportunity who are looking to be more spiritual, who are maybe been in the game for a little bit, who are maybe just starting to see what else is out there, what else they can do, and what else, they could potentially get themselves into in the future. Okay. So I have a guest here. All right. Luxurious Low. All right, the one and
Yes.
only. And I'm so excited to have her here, man. She does a lot of great content. She is definitely in the spiritual space. So we're going to talk about that, see exactly what she does, and we're going to get started. So let everybody know who you are and what you kind of do.
All right. Well, first, I'd like to thank you for having me here. And I'm so excited to speak to anyone who is slightly interested in getting to know their spiritual journey better or just tapping in or whatever the case is. Let's do it. It's teamwork, make the dream work. So, first of all, I'll start by saying, when it comes to my spiritual journey, it's exciting because when you really look at the growth that you
Mhm.
have just from it, once you get to a certain point and you get to look back at your life, it's exciting to see how far you've come.
Yeah.
I can't even say that there's just one point where I can say it started because I feel like I've had this gift or this calling since I was a child.
Okay.
So, with that being said, just moving through life and looking at different adversities that I've overcome, I had to look back and realize this is not just happening just because it's a reason and it's a purpose behind it. So
Yeah.
once I kind of looked at that and stepped into the calling of things, I was able to really realize that my spiritual journey is my purpose.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the calling of it. All right. So
Okay.
when you say the calling, like for me personally, the calling for me was shortly after my grandmother had passed. All right.
Okay.
I was just saying a prayer like, who's going to pray for me now? And then it was like kind of like a pulling for me to get me into the spiritual system that I'm in right now and to
Okay.
really be focused on more the spiritual side of thing and not just so much church. So
Right.
what does that look like for you?
Um, it's really interesting because I would just have to say I've had so many things happen at one time that kind of just sent me in a downward spiral. It was so
Okay.
much going on in my life to where I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. And I was at a very, very, very low point in my life. And
Okay.
it seems that it happened around COVID. I'm going to have
Okay.
to say that, and apparently that the COVID time caused a great awakening for many of us.
Yeah.
And once that started to happen, and I was kind of forced to sit in who I am, and I realized that a lot of people were being excluded from my life, and I was called into isolation. You know,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. That
moment that
was
I started to remove all the things that weren't serving me anymore, and really just force myself to look within. That's when
yeah.
I realized, okay, there's a calling here. There's a bigger purpose.
Okay.
So yeah, but of course, life was life and lessons were
Yeah.
happening beforehand,
Yeah.
and that's when I started to realize, like, okay, there's something here that I need to look into.
All right. Okay. All right. That's perfect. All right. So, because I do want to touch on that a little bit more. All right. So
Okay.
let's talk about where did you come from? Where are your humble beginnings coming from?
Okay. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
Um, born and raised there.
Detroit in the
That
house.
part.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That part. I have four sisters, and
Okay.
I fall smack in the middle. Yeah.
So you low in the middle.
Low in the middle. So I always had to figure out who I
Luxurious low in
was.
the
I was
middle.
a very interesting
Yeah.
kid, I'll say that.
Okay. All right. All
I
right.
would
What made
eat
what
weird
made you
foods.
interested?
Hmm.
Okay. I said, what made you interesting?
Yeah, I
As a,
would always eat weird foods. I was to myself. I was very quiet. I got teased a lot, and I thought that was interesting, but I never let it get me down. I was always the skinny kid, shy to myself. I had friends that I grew up with, and I appreciate them. And they were my friends for years, like 30 years plus. I never really found new friends, of course. But
uh,
yeah, I was kind of popular, but I was shy at the same time. So I don't know how that happened. Maybe they
So,
saw
yeah,
something in me that I didn't see in myself, but
yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes that's a good
so
thing.
mhm, it is,
Yeah.
it is. But yeah, so of course I'm born and raised in Detroit. I have four sisters. My mom and dad, of course, loved them to death. It wasn't the easiest bringing up, but it wasn't the worst either. So
Okay.
I moved to Vegas in 2012, and my life really started to change. And I feel like the moment that I changed my surroundings, it opened me up to new things, and
Okay.
it pushed me to have to be out of my comfort zone. So the more I
Okay.
push myself to get out of this little shell that I want to keep myself in so deeply, it
Yeah.
reminds me of the inner child of who I was.
Yeah.
You know,
That,
so
that's it.
I'm saying that to say, like, you know, with me being shy and all of that, and now that I'm an adult and I'm stepping into who I am and who I am supposed to be, who I really am, I'm nurturing the inner child, but I'm letting her know that it's okay to step out and put yourself out there, you know. So I'm
So
still
let me get
coddling my little inner child, but at the same time, I'm letting her know it's okay and we got this, you know.
all right. So let me get this right. You go from Detroit
hmm
to Vegas. You went
hmm
out there by yourself?
Well, my mother and my grandparents did move here.
Okay.
So after that, it was like a domino effect for me and my sisters, and we
Yeah.
all ended up eventually moving here.
All right. So what's the life like? Okay. So what I know you dealt with the teasing. You were the middle child. You really had to find yourself coming up. So
hmm
what was life like in Detroit? First off, like
Okay.
outside of the upbringing, like what's the environment like? How did everything kind of go? And we're gonna get into that. And then I want to know what's the difference between that and actually living in Vegas. How did the lifestyle change? 'Cause I know it had to be a drastic change, right? These are two
Definitely.
totally different places from climate to the type of people that are always going into these two different places. What was that about?
Okay. Well, I'll start by saying back in Detroit, you know, my parents were together. Then they divorced. So that was like the first traumatic thing really for me that I can remember.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the easiest thing, but I remember it happening and it was like detrimental to me, you know, when you go from
Mhm.
seeing your parents being together and then now it's just like, boom, they're not. I was in kindergarten at the time when I noticed everything happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So, from there, of course, just going through life and trying to figure out this new way and just looking at my mom go through things now that she's a single mom with four girls.
Yeah.
With the divorce, it caused for our family to split up where my two older sisters had to go and live with my dad, and then me and my younger sister had to live with my mom. So through the divorce, my dad ended up having a child with his girlfriend at the time.
Uh-huh.
She was a lot younger, so that was kind of strange and weird for us, but you know, so that's how I ended up getting four sisters. Let's just say that. You know, and my mom is just trying to do her best. He's trying to do his best on his end, and they did the best that they could do from what their upbringing taught them. And what, you know what I mean? We never
Yeah.
really know what, there's no blueprint to life. So they did the
Yeah.
best that they can do with what they had with growing up and figuring
Absolutely.
out their way. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, moving
So, so,
forward, hmm?
so with that, like, because y'all split up as far as you and your sisters, your three sisters at the time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then, now you're in a house with your mother and your younger sister. So it was it almost like you had a transition from being a middle child to now the oldest sibling because now you're
Definitely.
big sis in the house, right? So
Definitely.
how did that feel?
It was very interesting. It was just like anything that I went through, if my sister was there, she went through with me. We learned at the same time, you know.
Right.
She had her group of friends, I had my group of friends. And again, from kindergarten, these are the friends that I was mentioning earlier about that I had for 30 years plus. Those are the same friends that I had growing up through life. So
Yeah.
their family became family to me, you know, and we just figured it out. It was just like, okay, wow, we're here. all right, I guess we're just figuring it out, but I'm thankful to be able to have, extended family through them, because
Yeah,
that kind of helped me out.
that's awesome because that's rare, really. And you can find people that you
Yeah.
around for over 30 years. That's
Yes.
the tight bond right there. And no real
Yes.
complications. I'm sure you had some ups and downs in between that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
nothing serious, nothing major. Y'all can still remain friends. That's very rare. That's rare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My
Definitely.
grandmother would say that's a blessing. If you can have at least one good friend throughout your life,
Mm-hmm.
it's a blessing. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, just figuring out life and my place in the world and
Yeah.
dealing with things. Through high school, I'm just gonna fast forward through high
Mhm.
school. It wasn't really too bad, but my mom ended up moving to Vegas with her husband. She remarried,
Okay.
and things kind of were happening between the two of them, ups and downs. And she was like, "Well, this is what I'm doing. You're in high school now, so
What?
I'm leaving."
What?
Yeah. And it
What?
wasn't, I mean, but again, she's figuring out her life. And that's, if that's what she felt like she was being called to do, then that's what she did. And
Right.
she left the house. She had a house that she owned. So she left the house for me and my older siblings, of course. And once they were old enough to go ahead and start experiencing life, I was in high school, so they were older than me. They were already kind of figuring out life on their own. But she
Yeah.
left the house behind for us, and I'm like, okay, I'm in high school. I'm out here, like I'm out here. Like, what's going on?
Right.
Um, yeah, so she took my youngest sister, of course, because she was still younger, so she know, like, she needed her.
Yeah.
So it went bad. I was all over the place. I was in high school. I'm hanging
Oh,
out, I'm doing whatever. It's like,
okay. Okay.
okay,
I mean, you at this point you almost grown because you're on your own, or you have your older
definitely.
sisters that are there, but they out doing whatever they doing. So yeah, you
Yeah.
looking after yourself.
Yeah, they did the best they could with what they had. They looked after me here and there, but
Right.
it was just like, all right, well, y'all good? Yep, I'm good. So whatever. But I didn't really
Okay.
focus on schoolwork.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I literally was at lunch braiding people hair because I'm a hairstylist, and I knew I had this calling to do hair since I was a child. Me and my friends would play with our Barbie dolls and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a hairstylist. I'm a hairstylist. Like, we talk about 5 and 6 years old. Me
Yeah.
and one of my good friends got in trouble for going into her mom's refrigerator and mixing up eggs and mayonnaise, not even knowing that this is at the time was really a real protein treatment. But we was doing this to our Barbie dolls. But we
Yeah.
got in trouble for cracking them eggs, okay? It was crazy.
Oh,
But
so the ancestors were giving you the juice already at a young
yeah,
age. You didn't even know it.
yeah. It's so interesting. But one of my older sisters did hair as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, eventually seeing her and doing, I'm like, okay, this was kind of like the blueprint. And when I went to school, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with y'all, but I'm about to be braiding hair. So I would go to lunch, the homies, the homeboys, I'm braiding their hair at lunch. I'm like getting a couple dollars already. So to me, I'm like, y'all going to class, like, what we about to eat? What we got? Like, I want to live life.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
felt like school was slowing me down. And that's what's crazy. I was always a good, sweet person, don't get me wrong, but
Uh,
I don't know. I had my mind was set on something different.
hey, that's all right.
So
That's right. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
look,
And like I say, school ain't for everybody, but to each his own.
yeah, well, it definitely wasn't for me. The school was not for me.
Hmm.
I was not the A student or anything. I barely scraped by. And to be honest with you, most of that was probably because I played basketball. So it kind of
Okay.
just squeaked me by, throughout the
Right.
year. And then when I got out, I didn't really know too much. My reading
Yeah.
was terrible. I mean, it was just a lot of terrible stuff with me. And I
Hmm.
was out in the streets doing whatever I had to do too, because, my mom worked all day.
Oh
So she
yeah.
was always out. She was
Yep.
gone. So father, they've been divorced since I was young. So yeah, she was always out. So I'd be out in the streets doing whatever myself. So yeah.
I understand that. I
Yeah.
totally understand.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting. But yeah, and I kind of skipped past some things, but yeah, in middle school, I did cheer, I did dance, like that was a part of my heart. Like
So
I did really good things. So same as interesting as you saying like basketball, like certain things kept your attention. But when it
mhm.
came to the actual school side of it and the books I'm like, this ain't it. You know,
All
I
right.
get
Yep. I
just
know.
enough to get past.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, kind of jumping back to what we were getting to.
So
Oh,
Vegas. So how's the difference between Detroit and Vegas?
okay. Well, a very important message about my life is I have two children, two
Okay.
blessings. I'll say that.
So
um,
did you have them while you were in Detroit when you had your two
I
blessings
did.
children?
I
Oh,
did. I
okay.
did. So, from my high school sweetheart,
Okay.
we ended up having children together. So, I had my daughter at the age of 20, and I had my
Uh-huh.
son at the age of 21. So I
Okay.
literally had them back to back.
Wow.
Lola and Logan, my hearts. I love them so much. But that really kind of made me have to take life seriously. You know what I mean? So now it's like not only did I have to go through trying to figure out life on my own, now I have to figure out not only life for myself, but for my children as well.
Yeah.
Again, me and their father was together for 11-ish years.
Wow.
Yeah, so long term was was that I was like, we gonna figure this out, okay? But in the midst of the relationship, he ended up kind of tapping into the street life a little bit. And I just was like, this ain't my life. Like, I know this is
Yeah.
not my life. This is not what I want for my kids, anything like that. So, my mom had moved to Vegas. She was there. And of course, I was just like, you know what, mom, I'm coming to Vegas. I can't do this no more. This street life, especially in Detroit. It
Yeah.
was something different. I'm thankful that's where I'm from because it taught me a lot, but it was just like, if you want better, you got to do better.
True.
So, again, I moved to Vegas. Not necessarily having a plan. I just felt like something was like, go, 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 go.
Hmm.
And when I got there, I lived with my mom for a little bit and I ended up getting my own place. Their father did come with me. And we still just wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't that. We tried and
Yeah.
tried and tried. I just felt like we were doing it for the children, but the real connection wasn't there between us. So
Okay.
moved to Vegas, started to find my way. I worked at one of the casinos here at New York, New York. And I was just like, okay, I can't work for people. Because I
Okay.
never
Yeah,
really
that's
had a
real.
real job. I've done hair the whole entire time, all the way up until I moved to Las Vegas for the most part. And working for
So
people
you
just wasn't for
always
me.
have been an entrepreneur your whole
Majority
life,
of the time. I
majority of the
might have
time.
had maybe like 2 or 3 jobs, and they
Okay.
were quick, maybe like 6 months, maybe like a year.
Yeah.
But I felt myself to always be a leader once I got to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah. So living here in Vegas, figured out I worked at the casino for 3 years. I worked my way up to the highest position that I could in my department.
Uh-huh.
And once they told me, oh, they try to keep me stuck at one spot. Okay, this is my time. I appreciate it. It gave me enough money to do what I had to do to build a foundation. And then that's when I went ahead to pursue my dreams of continuing with the hairstyling. So
Okay. All right. So this is the key right here. So now you're in Vegas. All right. You and the children's father. Y'all
mhm.
kind of, I don't know if you're bumping heads, but it's not really meshing at this point. Yeah. So you were
Yeah.
bumping heads. Okay. And all right. So what? And I'm guessing y'all are not together now. Is that the case?
No. Yeah, that's the case.
All right. So y'all not together. So when, like, what was that leap like? Being like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna go out here and do this. I got the kids. I'm gonna do what I got to do. What was that part like for you?
Um, when we decided to split, it was a situation of because within the first 2 years, he and I split once he moved here. And I
Mm.
had the sense and feeling of I gave him an ultimatum. The street life that you're doing, I said either we can go together and you can change your life,
Hmm.
change your lifestyle, because this is not who you are.
Yeah.
And he said he was going to come, he came, and things still didn't change. So at that point, I knew that I was being called to separate.
Okay.
So once we did go ahead and separate, he did not make it easy at all.
Yeah.
So but once we finally did go ahead and separate, I was just like, okay,
Mhm.
thankfully his mom and his dad are a huge support. They
Okay.
supported us and they've supported our relationship as sometimes I would say a little too much, but I would
Uh-huh.
say that I'm thankful for the support that they've given. And
Yeah.
I allowed for my children to go and move back with the grandparents. So that way they didn't have to see the ugly split between me and the father.
Okay. All
So
right.
that was a huge sacrifice for myself to be able to,
Ooh.
yeah. But when
Yeah.
I knew that I was being broken down and it was something that I did not want them to see in me anymore, I could no longer be myself and give them the nurturing that they needed and deserved because I was so broken.
Right. Right.
So, you know, that kind of really pushed me to say, if you want better for yourself, you have to do better. It's all about what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the
Yeah.
conversations I was having with myself.
Wow. So you split up. Just were you still doing hair at this time? Well, I guess you're kind of doing hair on the side, or
Yes.
and because
Yes.
you're still working at the casino. So when did you shift from that position? Well, yeah, you shifted from the position at the casino and started doing
Hmm.
hair full time. All right. So when did the because it sounds like you always been on your spiritual journey for one. But when did it really start to pull you in from that point? Does that make sense?
It was a lot more tower moments in between that, meaning
Let's talk
downward
about
spirals,
it.
ups and
Let's talk about
downs.
it. Let's talk. Do you
So,
mind talking about it?
I don't mind talking about it.
All right, let's
Um,
talk about it.
so again, after he left, and of course, I'm like, all right, I'm working my way up. It was me and another person who was trying to get the higher position at the casino again, and I was just like, dang, they didn't give it to me. So
Yeah,
I was like, all right, well, I can't go back. My pay grade, I can't go back down. So I'm
yeah,
like, this ain't it. Maybe I need to go ahead and focus on moving forward.
yeah,
So from there, I had my own place. That's when things got sticky. It's like, okay, you made this decision to follow your dreams, and what you're going to do. How are you going to do this? Social
yeah,
media is not as big then. So reaching out to people, it was literally just word of mouth for the most part that I had to, move forward on. Um, so, it got to the point where, and not to mention, kind of dating and doing things in between. It was weird. It was crazy for me. But I had a guy who was like pretty much stalking me at the time. It was
What?
weird.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you that too, because I wasn't sure what your situation was, but what is the dating life in Vegas? Because I know people go to Vegas to party, party, party. So I don't know if that makes it hard to find somebody that's even local for one, and then
Extremely.
um, and then after that, finding somebody who's not always on the scene and stuff like that. So what's that about?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Oh,
What's the dating life like?
it's almost non-existent, really.
Really?
Unless you come across someone who moved here from somewhere else, the same as you, maybe, or myself. But I'm not gonna throw no shade, but there's particular cities and states that I now run from because the way that they were raised,
Yeah.
even for some of the local people, you just be like, because Vegas doesn't have much culture.
Yeah.
So, because it's just a melting pot for so many people
Hmm.
that it's like, it's unbelievable. But when you do have a little culture and you can bring that here for yourself, and, it kind of helps. But when it comes to dating, I'll just be like, yeah, I'm God. I'm just going to go ahead and wait for my husband that you got for me because
Right.
this ain't it. But yeah, it's very difficult. Very difficult.
Okay. All right. All right. Sorry, that's a little detour.
Oh, no, no worries.
Because I did want to know that how the scene was out there. But yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So you're doing your
Back to the
thing.
stalker.
Back to the stalker. Let's get back to the stalker.
The stalker was
That's
there, which pretty much called me to the point to say, okay, my lease was coming up to an end because I had spent
yeah.
some time alone by myself now, and I was just like, I can't. And I spoke to my mom. She's like, maybe you should just move back home, move back
Yeah.
with me. She was here in Vegas, so I went ahead and moved in with her, thugged it out. built
Yeah.
my clientele, and did the most that I could do. I did a little couple security jobs on the side because my stepfather, he's like a security management, has a security company, so I had been working for him for a little bit of time. He would get me in little gigs just to put some money in my pocket and whatnot. So and by the way, this is extremely tough for me because I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do for myself and for the future of my children. Like,
Yeah.
it was the hardest thing for me to not have them with me. But I knew that they had a solid foundation in Detroit. But these were the
Yeah.
sacrifices that I had to make as a woman, like, to keep
Yeah.
going, to keep going,
Yeah.
to keep going. So yeah. And
All right.
from
So
there,
okay. All right. Because you breezed over the stalker part real quick. So what made this guy stalker? Like, what happened that he was like,
okay.
oh my God, this guy's because I know some people. I say, yeah, some people they might feel like they don't like a person, so if they do a little bit too much, they might call
Yeah.
that stalking. But then there's the real situations where people hide behind bushes, people creeping around your house doing stuff like that. So what? How did you find out that he was stalking you? What happened?
Okay. I would have yellow sticky notes left on my door with
Oh,
red ink, and it would be random messages saying like, "You looked really nice today."
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Or saying, "I would love to be with you," or just random stuff like that. And "I saw you," or they would say stuff like, um, "You shouldn't have to pump your own gas." Knowing that I was just at the
Yeah.
gas station like that
Oh my
earlier that
God.
day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you had a real deal. Somebody was like
Yeah.
scoping you out from a distance. And
Yeah.
okay. All right. All right. All right.
Yeah. And it was very, very, very scary for me. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm from Detroit, so I'm really not scared of too much. But that was just like, just come out and say who you are. Like, just cut the
So
bull
you didn't
crap,
even know the person. You didn't even know the person at all.
I,
You don't know who it was. You
I
might
think I
know.
have an idea now, but once
Okay.
I went ahead and moved from that place, then they no longer, you know,
Yeah. Okay. I
yeah.
got it. All right. All right. Didn't mean to dig too deep into you.
Oh no,
Into.
that's fine. I'm an open book.
All right. So yeah. Okay. So back to it. You're with your mom now. You had to
Mm-hmm.
move back in with your mom. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You're building your clientele up. All right. So now, what part of that now turns into like, all right, I'm starting to realize that I'm getting into a more spiritual space.
Uh, that took a lot more time.
Mhm.
Again, just going through different relationships and tower moments, like I said. Being
Yeah.
in certain relationships. I was in a relationship after that was really, really good for me, but I
Hmm.
wasn't ready for it. Because of course I'm in Vegas, I'm partying still, I'm trying to make it happen. Liquor is involved and families here. My sisters are here now, so we're all hanging out. I'm meeting friends with them, and
Oh,
we're all just kind of figuring out Vegas. Um, it's it's just crazy when I really sit back and think of everything. Because you never realize how much stuff you've been through until you're actually talking about it. So
yeah.
everything's just now just starting to pop up. But when it comes to my actual spiritual side, I've
Hmm.
always had a huge heart. And a lot of people took that for weakness. Um,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
moving through my heart space majority of the time, I couldn't understand why so many people would do me wrong.
Wow.
So, after that, I'm like, I want nothing but the best for people. I was always the person that was like happy, cheerful, like, hey, like fun to party with. Everybody would always invite me because they knew that it would be like fun. And I have a
Yeah.
sister who has the same birthday as me, by the way. We're 2 years apart. We have the same exact birthday. But when I tell you, so we have the same energy, like her and I together, it's like crazy. Like it was always
Yeah.
going to be a great time. But
Yeah.
we still have different perspectives of our growth and where we come from, because everybody's perspective on life was different. How we
Yeah.
seen things and through the lenses of our own eyes is different. So she had her own things and traumas and trials and tribulations, and same for myself.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, she was a huge part of the awakening point because it was just we were partying out of control. Okay. Partying, partying, partying. And then I was starting to realize that I'm distracted.
Hmm.
It got to the point where I was just like, this is not where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. Some
know?
people never move out that phase. Like they
Yes.
stay in it.
Yes.
They stay.
Yes. And that was a hard time because, her and I had ups and downs and over many of things, but no matter what, I always love her. Always. You know what I'm saying? And it was unfortunate, but I had to pull myself from that party lifestyle
Yeah,
because I felt like, okay, this ain't it. And of course, it sucks because the party lifestyle was who she is. And
yeah,
pulling away from the party lifestyle was pulling away from her. So this is where now it's falling into the point where I'm realizing I have to start isolating and removing certain people from my life because
yeah.
it's like, yeah, this ain't it for me. So
Wow.
that's where it was the first really hard thing to do. So I feel
Hmm.
like that awakened something within my spiritual journey
Okay.
because it was like, okay, pull back from this. I need you to focus on this. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like that shadow work going on. Like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
really dig deep into finding out who I am type of work. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So you had
It
your
was
sister,
tough.
yeah, yeah, you had your sister that you had to kind of pull away from.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships that you had to pull away from. You say you had a
Yes.
good guy at one point, and you weren't ready for that because of the party scene. And now it's just like, yeah,
Yes.
now okay, I'm ready to find low. I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
find who I am. Right.
Yes.
Well, going through that process, like what kind of feelings, what kind of emotions did you have to experience while you were going through that?
It was many of breakdowns. I'll say that.
Okay.
It was many of breakdowns. And I was always the person who smiled. So a lot of people never knew what I was going through. So when you
Mm,
show up in front of people after you just had this crazy breakdown, or you're still in the midst, because a breakdown is not always just one day of crying. You know what I
yeah.
mean? A breakdown can last a period of time, you
Yeah.
know? And a lot of people don't realize that because they just feel like, oh, you're happy, you're always smiling. So they don't even
Hmm.
realize that they're putting their stuff onto you. I've had friends where I put my stuff aside and I'm
Hmm.
there. I'm the person people can come to for advice. I'm the person that's going to uplift. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? No matter what I'm going through. But when I tell you it was ugly for myself, ugly. Like days where I would literally just be like, okay, I got to sit in a room and I got to get this out. I would force myself to literally get it out.
Wow.
I would write things down. I would have to say, what is this? What is that? What's making me feel this way? And really
Wow.
force myself to sit with these things. What's triggering me? Why do I feel like this? Like, what are they doing this to me? Or am I doing this? And I have to realize, like, hello, you're allowing these things to happen. You can't point the finger at people and keep pointing at everybody else saying, like, oh, you did this, you did that, got old real quick.
Yeah.
Now, instead of you're no longer attracting these things because you sat with the problem. If you keep pointing the
Mm,
finger at somebody else about what they doing to you, it's not you. I mean, it's not them, it's you.
mm.
So that's why I had to go ahead and sit with myself and realize, like, girl, this is you. You're attracting this kind of energy because you're not ready to sit and correct the reasons why these things are happening.
Wow. So
Yeah.
when you saw that, like, all right, because I know what you're talking about. I've
Yeah.
been there. It's like, yo, I noticed that my whole life was a mess, a wreck, because
Mm-hmm.
what I allowed in it. So what other I know you kind of writing stuff down to kind of get it out. Is there anything else that you kind of did to kind of get yourself like to uplift yourself a little bit more? Just again, yeah, to uplift yourself because when you're getting it out, you're still getting out, but you're still kind of going through it. What did you do to build the spirit? There we go.
Mm, I've always been a nature person, so I take hikes.
Okay.
So
Oh,
I like to go hiking. I like to do anything outdoorsy. And it literally helps to it helped me to refresh my
Okay.
mental state.
Okay.
And whenever I would go and get away from it and just listen to the sounds of nature and just to reground myself, to reset, it always helped.
Wow.
Always helped. I recently, of course, I'm still in the process, and we know one thing about the spiritual journey is it never ends. There's
Never.
no such thing as 100% healed. There's no such thing. It's every day is a learning lesson. Different things are going to pop up daily, and how you respond to it
Yeah.
is where you show your growth. So everything doesn't call for action or reaction. So that's what I am learning about getting through day-to-day things. But
Mhm.
I was saying this to say that just learning that for myself, I recently had to do 6 months straight. I've taken breaks before, no alcohol, no weed, no nothing. I had to re-cleanse myself. I've
Okay.
always been a picky eater. And once I start to realize what I'm putting inside of my body on top of this is how I had to overcome many things with my spiritual journey. We don't
Mm,
even realize that we're affected by so many different things that don't belong to us. And if you're not self-aware of what you're putting in your body, what you're surrounding yourself with, what you're feeding your mind, especially when it comes to this social media. Are you sitting on social media looking at this is what you're feeding your mind?
facts.
So these are the things that I had to go and do a sit down and do a major cleanse. Like, okay, what? No, delete. Certain things that I'm eating. My body responding like this. Not eating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a few things that I literally had to stand in. And every now and then, I might dibble and dabble here and there with some things, but I always have to remind myself, like, no, stay on track. So
Mm.
those things really helped my awareness go from, and
Ah,
yeah, it's a lot of things, a lot of things that
okay.
pushed me into this. So I just feel like
That
it was time.
that's awesome that you actually put yourself through that. Did you have anybody telling you how to do these things, or you just kind of discovered them on your own?
For the most part, discovering it on my own, but I started to do a lot of work. And when you start to see these synchronicities that pop up in your life,
Yeah.
when that starts to happen, that's when I feel like the calling began.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from there, what is this? What is this? It was calling me to do the research.
So,
Go
okay.
look into this. See what this means. What is this? Or stuff like that. What is the feeling behind it? What are you thinking when you're seeing these things? This is not happening by mistake. I've always felt like everything had a purpose and everything is happening for a reason.
Oh,
So with
wow.
that being said, I had to go ahead and do the inner work to figure out what is this. And so from there, I went on YouTube. I'm
Yeah, that's
like,
how
what
it
is this?
goes.
What's going on here?
YouTube University, boy. We all are graduates, so
Absolutely.
somehow, somehow, some way.
Yes. Yes, for sure. So that was it was and from there, that's where I started to find a community and realize I'm not the only person experiencing these things. And, it helped me to get more clarity in how to move with certain things that I was going through.
Okay. All right. That's dope. I think that's an amazing story right there of how you
Thanks.
started to come up. And I noticed that you do readings, right? For other people in some
I'm
sort.
tapping into it now, not
Okay.
yet, but and I'm building my intuitive strength. But yes, it will be coming soon.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Because I see that you
Yeah.
always sing when it comes to the numbers and synchronicity of that, and that's your thing, right? So what do you
Yes.
like as far as what you want to do? Okay. Okay, I
Hmm.
know you here. Maybe it's doing here. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's it. Or maybe you want to tap into the spirit more and actually help other people in that direction. They're
Yes.
both right. They're both helping. So what do you
Hmm.
actually see yourself doing in like the next 5 years?
Um, I'm actually looking into speaking more, and I know that I'm being called to use my voice. And God is like, you've been quiet long enough.
Yeah,
Spirit is speaking to me and saying you need to go ahead and start speaking to people because we have to raise the vibration here.
yeah,
We have to raise the vibration. Our people are at such a low. that we
Mhm.
have to get people on track. The stuff that they're
Yeah,
putting out when it comes to music and just uplifting the spirit, period. So I know that I'm being called to do that because when my clients come to me, they leave feeling uplifted.
there
It's
you
not
go.
just about the hair because I'm passionate about that's what I do and that's something I love and they feel that passion through the hands. I have healing hands. I'm some type of healer. I'm some type of I know that it's in me, but now it's time for me to put myself out there to reach a huger audience to be able to help people through their journeys and
Yeah.
just I'm here to help. I'm
Yeah, you
here to
can't
help
say
and
any
heal.
better than that. That's right. You can't say any better than that, man. And it's yeah, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that that's a part of your life. I can see it as being a part
Yeah.
of your life. I know that you're going to be a very good speaker.
Thank you.
When it comes down to it, you're going to be on stages. You're going to be able to speak life into people. I definitely see that for you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I want you to know that, man. You are blessed in so many different ways. And you just have to remember that you are blessed and keep that portion, keep that vision of who you want to be. Always keep that in front of you. All right. And then you'll eventually grow into that thing that you always saw yourself as being. So yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome. You're
Thank you.
amazing.
I appreciate it. I've enjoyed our talk. It was amazing. Your energy is great as well. And I wish nothing but the best for you, is of course. And I hope I can come back and we can come back
Yeah.
and do this again. So,
Definitely doing this again. We're definitely doing this again.
yeah.
For y'all who don't know, I let her know that I'm starting off doing podcasting, and I asked her to be a guest because I loved her energy, and she accepted it. And then she came. She also came through because I also asked a few people that never showed up. Just didn't show up. So I thank you for actually just coming. And
Oh,
giving me
yeah.
this opportunity because it helps both of us at the end of the day. And that's my goal, is to not just help other people, to help the person that I'm with, and we can all just kind of get this thing together and keep growing. And as our community grows, as we start to grow, we can just keep helping each other, feeding each other, whatever it takes, right, to get there.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to thank y'all for being here for Feel Your Soul podcast, where we are teaching, we're getting into the spiritual community, and we are just showing all the love that we can right here. We got LoXurious Low here, share a great story with us, and I can't wait to have her back on here. All right.
I'm looking
So
forward to it.
there you go. So until next time, stay blessed, stay abundant. I love y'all. Peace. Stop the recording. There you go.